Hold on right there for 30 seconds, XRP family. They always say markets move on fear and greed, but what we're witnessing right now feels like something else entirely. It feels orchestrated. You're watching the Matrix Millionaire movement, where we decode the financial rails the rest of the world ignores. Before we dive in, if you're serious about staying ahead in this once-in-a-lifetime financial shift, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe. It genuinely helps push this message out to more holders who need to see what's coming. All right, let's talk about what's really going on. Over the past several days, we've been tracking something that doesn't fit normal volatility patterns. A shadow inside the data, a liquidity rhythm that points straight toward Binance and what I believe is one of the most coordinated plays ever seen in the XRP markets. XRP didn't just fall, it collapsed to nearly $1.10, only to rip back above $2 within minutes. Bitcoin briefly knifed under six figures, then rebounded as if nothing happened. Billions in market value disappeared and reappeared like a magician's trick. People called it chaos, others called it a glitch. But after 12 years studying this market, I can tell you nothing this synchronized happens by accident. Disclaimer: this content is for informational and educational purposes only. Nothing here is financial advice. Always do your own research and speak with a licensed professional before making financial decisions. When we mapped the on-chain flows, the timing lined up almost perfectly. Every major price collapse in that 24-hour window coincided with Binance's API throttle alerts, seconds apart. Think about that. Liquidity vanishes, order books freeze, users are locked out, and then, right when the price bottoms, liquidity returns. That's not market noise. That's a switch being flipped. If this sounds familiar, it should. The same pattern appeared in 1929 when trading floors suddenly froze as insiders dumped positions. Again in 2008 when electronic markets mysteriously halted while hedge funds repositioned. Different century, same playbook. And at the center of it sits the same phrase we've all heard too many times. Funds are safe. Binance posted it within minutes of the crash, as if that made it better. But funds weren't safe. Portfolios were liquidated, positions were wiped out, and traders couldn't even log in. Funds are safe only means the exchange's wallets survived, not yours. Let's be blunt. Binance isn't just an exchange anymore. It's the central bank of crypto. It controls more liquidity, more order books, and more derivatives volume than any other entity in the market. When it sneezes, the entire ecosystem catches a cold, and when it deliberately holds its breath, the market collapses. During that crash, over $16 billion in long positions were liquidated, the largest cascade in crypto history. Yet hours later, the market cap had mysteriously recovered almost to the exact dollar value it lost. That means value wasn't destroyed, it was transferred. The question is, to whom? This is where things turn dark. On-chain data shows that in the hour leading up to the crash, massive short positions were opened through wallets tied to Binance's own market-making partners. They were positioned minutes before the first price drop. That's not luck. That's choreography. Imagine a ship where the captain locks the lifeboats before a storm hits. Passengers panic, water floods in, alarms blare. But the captain keeps calm because he knows exactly when he'll reopen the doors. That's what this event looked like. Retail traders were the passengers. Binance was the captain. And the storm? Liquidity. Some people will say, well, crypto's supposed to be decentralized. No one should halt the market. In theory, sure. But when one exchange controls 70% of global liquidity, that is centralization. Wall Street built circuit breakers and trading halts precisely to prevent this kind of spiral. Binance had those same tools and chose not to use them. Now look closer at how the recovery unfolded. As soon as prices hit their lowest point and retail traders were frozen, institutional nodes kept running, seamlessly. They bought at the bottom while everyone else watched helplessly. Within minutes, the same coins that were liquidated at $1.10 were being rebought at $1.12. By the same counterparties who opened those shorts earlier. That's not just manipulation, that's market ownership. And this isn't a conspiracy theory. The blockchain itself confirms the timing. You can see the fingerprints. Liquidity disappears like oxygen pulled from a room, then rushes back when insiders are ready to breathe again. If that sounds extreme, remember the Hunt brothers and silver in 1980, cornering the market until regulators changed margin rules overnight. Ripple effects destroyed retail, but the insiders walked away richer. Fast forward 45 years, and the technology's new, but the motive is the same. Here's where you should start paying attention. This pattern doesn't just affect XRP, it affects everything. Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, they all trade on the same global liquidity rails. If those rails can be throttled at will, then the illusion of free markets collapses. Now, people keep asking me where I track these events in real time. Honestly, MeXC. Not because it's a sponsor, it's not, but because their live order book data shows liquidity shifts before the headlines hit. You can literally watch the pressure build before a move explodes. If you want to see it the way the whales do, the link's in the description. Here's the big takeaway. What happened wasn't a glitch. It was a rehearsal, a live fire stress test for controlling global liquidity. They wanted to see how fast the market would bend, how traders would react, and how much profit could be harvested before recovery. And they got their answer. Because if Binance can pull liquidity from XRP, one of the most traded digital assets on Earth, then the rest of the market isn't safe either. They just proved they can rewrite volatility itself. So the next time someone tells you it was just a correction, remember this: markets don't move in perfect symmetry by chance. They move that way when someone's conducting the orchestra. When you really start unpacking how Binance operates, you realize it was never just an exchange. It was built as an ecosystem for control. Every part of its infrastructure feeds another, forming a loop of liquidity that never leaves its orbit. Spot markets feed the futures engine. Futures feed the liquidation machine. The liquidation machine feeds the internal market makers. And those market makers recycle profits back into liquidity pools that set global prices. If that sounds complicated, that's because it's designed to be. Complexity is camouflage. The average trader sees a clean interface, flashing charts, a few buttons. What they don't see is the system behind it, an engine that determines how fast liquidity flows and who gets access first. The deeper you look, the more it starts to feel like a high-frequency casino disguised as a financial revolution. Binance's dominance isn't measured by volume anymore. It's measured by latency. Their systems can execute and cancel millions of orders faster than you can blink. That gives them total visibility of the order book. They know where the stops are, where the leverage piles up, where fear lives. And when you know that, you don't trade the market, you become the market. People forget this part. Binance has more internal liquidity than most of the global banking networks combined. It connects to over 70 exchanges, OTC desks, and custodians. That's not decentralization, that's consolidation. It's the equivalent of every major stock exchange being owned by one entity. So when a crash happens and you see prices move in perfect symmetry across multiple exchanges, that's not global chaos, that's synchronization. It means the central source of liquidity just constricted and everyone downstream felt the pressure. The same way a central bank can drain or inject money through repo operations, Binance can throttle the crypto economy at will. And what's worse? It's not illegal. Not yet. There's no regulation defining what constitutes a market halt in decentralized systems. No requirement for transparency and API throttling. No rules about internal market maker data. They operate in a gray zone where plausible deniability thrives. They can say, oh, it was just congestion. And retail traders nod because they've been conditioned to accept glitches as normal. But behind those glitches are algorithms that know exactly what they're doing. They can simulate stress, pull liquidity from key pairs, and trigger cascading liquidations that ripple across the market like controlled demolition. Every time it happens, it transfers power upward. If you want to see how deliberate this design is, just look at their partnerships. Binance Labs, Binance Custody, Binance Research, Binance Futures, all separate brands under the same roof. That's vertical integration. That's how you turn data into dominance. Every transaction, every token listing, every funding rate, it's all information. And information is leverage. Now think about how this ties to XRP. Binance knows XRP's velocity is unmatched. It's fast, deep, and liquid. So controlling XRP's volatility isn't just about price. It's about mastering the asset that connects global liquidity rails. If you can dictate how XRP trades, you can dictate the tempo of the entire crypto market. That's why every sudden flash crash and rebound happens there first. It's the metronome. You might think this sounds dystopian, but it's already happened in traditional finance. The same way JP Morgan and Citadel control the dark pools of equity trading, Binance controls the digital ones. The difference? In the stock market, those entities are at least visible. In crypto, it's hidden behind APIs and latency windows. So when Binance says, we're just a neutral platform, understand that neutrality vanishes the moment one entity can throttle access while trading on the same system. That's the equivalent of being both referee and player. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most traders don't want to know this. They'd rather believe in luck than architecture. But markets aren't luck. They're machinery. And Binance built the most powerful machine crypto has ever seen. At the end of the day, this isn't just about Binance. It's about what happens when too much power gathers in one pair of hands. Every empire in history follows the same pattern: expansion, control, denial, collapse. The names change, the technology evolves, but the motive never does. Liquidity is just the modern empire's lifeblood. Whoever controls it controls perception, fear, and price itself. For XRP holders, that realization should hit hard. Because if XRP is the bridge asset, the heartbeat of real-time global settlement, then the players controlling its pulse already know what comes next. They're not betting on price action. They're building leverage over the system that moves it. This isn't a game of coins anymore. It's a game of rails. We've seen this movie before. The banks once swore gold would never move freely until it did. Governments said debt couldn't spiral until it did. And now exchanges swear markets are decentralized until the moment they freeze. Every time history repeats, it punishes those who confuse convenience for freedom. But there's a silver lining, and it's the reason this channel exists. Knowledge cuts through control. When you understand how liquidity is engineered, you stop reacting emotionally and start positioning strategically. You stop being the liquidity and start being the one who rides it. That's how you survive the next reset. Not by predicting every crash, but by knowing exactly who benefits when it happens. If this video opened your eyes, take a second to like, comment, and share it. It sounds small, but it actually tells YouTube this information matters. It helps this message reach other holders before the next engineered move hits. The more people understand the game, the harder it becomes to play them. Crypto was never meant to be ruled. It was meant to evolve. And evolution always begins with awareness. So stay sharp, stay decentralized, and stay ready. Because when the next liquidity switch flips, the ones who've already connected the dots won't panic. They'll move first. As always, thanks for watching the Matrix Millionaire Movement, where we don't react to history. We read it before it's written.